Greetings everyone and welcome to my State of Nintendo address for 2017, where we'll talk about the news from Nintendo for the year. I'll share a couple of my thoughts on how these particular news stories tie into the present of Nintendo and the future, where I believe the company will be headed in 2018, and feel free to discuss your thoughts in the comment section as well, since I would love to hear from you. Now, it may be a little odd to speak about an article this old in a video about 2017, but I believe it's worth mentioning because this move is what tipped me off to how the year was going to develop. There was an article in a Japanese periodical that basically told us that Nintendo would be merging the console and handheld departments of their company into a single building, and that move was intended to streamline game production. The article confirmed to me, a bit to my dismay at the time, that Nintendo would be streamlining their process of producing games with this move. The article in my mind confirmed what the late and great Satoru Iwata stated, in that they were going to make a hybrid console. The reason why this was a little troubling to me at that time was that the Wii U wasn't doing that great. In fact, it was doing terrible. It's the worst selling console Nintendo's ever had. But I figured uh, if this move went the way the Wii U did, that the company could actually be in trouble as far as executing the then NX in the same clumsy fashion that the Wii U had experienced. This was, of course, at the time when it was not confirmed that the 3DS would still be garnering support from Nintendo, in spite of the fact that the uh, then NX was announced. All right. Oh, side note, this article also told me um, a little bit about how they feel about the handheld and console markets being separate, which was basically, hey, this is taking away our production. And a lot of people have thought that for a while now. So I guess Nintendo was finally starting to listen to its fan base and probably its investors. But yeah, that article was what kind of tipped me off to how this year was going to go, because it was either going to be a massive success or a massive fail. And as of course we know, it was a massive success. So starting in January, uh, my fear and my fear of the NX failing was put to bed, for me at least, when the January Direct came along. It was a little over an hour presentation that had a general sense of Nintendo-ness with just enough exciting information to completely solidify my confidence. And it did a great play-by-play of the things announced. Oh, sorry. The Verge did a great play-by-play of the things announced in the Direct, as well as for the entire month of January, so I'll put the link to that in the description, but this is the basic gist. They talked about Joy-Con features, the games at the time, basically 11 were confirmed, introducing another point of uneasiness for me, quite frankly, uh, because yeah, that number was less than any other console that I'd known up to that point as far as launch games were concerned. But yeah, they managed to put me at ease with the level of third-party support, awkward and lanky company presidents and all that the console itself had, and the price was also something that I was very comfortable with. What I saw there was reassuring, which was a stark change from what I had seen with the Wii U's launch, which to me was, I don't know, it was just sloppy, man. I couldn't even. But yeah, I can't tell you how quickly I was hitting my keys to pre-order this thing, man. It was like, as soon as they said, "Hey, this is ready for pre-order," bing, bing, bam, I was done. Like I had the console. Honestly, I clicked in like 2 or 3 minutes afterwards just to see, and it was sold out. So I was like, okay, good, good. I'm glad I went ahead and reserved it. But anyway, after the presentation, my mind was made up. I had stated in previous videos there was not a single game they announced at the January presentation that I was not at least interested in, which was absolutely true. All of the games were interesting, but not necessarily games that I would play. Stuff that would appeal to a wide audience is what the focus was of that direct. They wanted to say, hey, this is for everybody, not just for hardcore gamers or just for the casual gamers, you know, that kind of thing. In February, they the news outlets were finally starting to get their hands on the Switch, and the overall reviews were actually very, very positive. People were floored that Nintendo was able to achieve this level of performance based on the size and form factor of the console. This thing is a little bit bigger than a tablet, and it's pushing 1080p graphics on a lot of its games. Mind you, that means that there were some concessions with frame rates and the occasional hiccup when it comes to texture rendering, over the course of the year. But overall, it was a very impressive technical achievement. The battery life wasn't that phenomenal, but it was much more than sufficient for a couple of hour plane ride or a 30-minute play session, before you get into line, well, after you, while you're waiting in line for something. The only real downside that people mentioned was the fact that the kickstand seemed to be flimsy, which ended up being a purposeful design choice by Nintendo. They announced later, "Hey guys, we did that on purpose so you don't break your dealio." So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. For March, the March launch of the Switch was met by literally chunks of space where switches were supposed to be, and they weren't. Like this thing was so hard to get, and this reconfirmed to me the reason why I went ahead and pre-ordered it, because if I hadn't, I would have waited until well, probably around August in this area to actually pick one up. I'm in the Colorado area, and it was sold out literally everywhere. The Best Buys, the GameStops, the WalMarts, the everybody um, were completely sold out for months on end. Um, yeah, the system basically sold itself, but the greatness that was Breath of the Wild would push demand basically to the stratosphere. Even indie titles for the game, the ones that I picked up were Fast RMX and the demo for Snipper Clips. I never actually got the full game, unfortunately. Completely set the system apart. It was phenomenal. It was one of the coolest things I'd seen from Nintendo at the time. Was the fact that the demand was so high that even when they were putting out 2 million something units at the beginning, they were sold out instantly. So yeah, it was craziness. Uh, let's see. Oh, I included a couple of reviews for Snipper Clips and Fast RMX for those that were interested. Both of those articles were from Nintendo Life, which is my current favorite Nintendo information site. So I would say check them out in the links that I put in the description below. Anyway, for April. April brought the news that the Switch outsold the launches of Nintendo's previous consoles, including the Wii, by a relatively significant margin. Not a huge margin, mind you, but it was big enough that people noticed. Well, that Nintendo noticed specifically, and that it was enough for them to want to tell us that. Not only that, it was the best-selling console in the Americas. A side note and a fun one that was the Splatoon 2 Squid Sister Stories prologue being released to. Okay, a side note and a fun one at that was the Splatoon Squid Sister Stories prologue being released, making another departure from the normal marketing strategy by Nintendo. That's actually the real story here. The real success of the Nintendo Switch was the great marketing. They did such a good job with that. Having little sidebars for Splatoon, telling you where the Squid Sisters went and why they couldn't be in Splatoon 2, how they fell out of the public eye, etc. All of that stuff was really cool and something that you wouldn't have expected from Nintendo 5 or 6 years earlier. So it was a lot of stuff that you wouldn't have expected, and a lot of stuff that was really cool and well put together. So yeah, it was April was just a bunch of little stories and marketing that really brought the point home that Nintendo was here to make a system that was going to stay around for a while, that was going to be successful, that they wanted people to know about, that they were proud of, that kind of thing. It that point was articulated so much better. Let's see. In May, the ARMS Direct basically confirmed Nintendo's quirky game had some legs on it. Well, or arms, I guess you could say. The Direct was successful in making me completely invested in the idea of the ARMS franchise. Nintendo did do a sort of Thundersteel on themselves when they had like a Splatoon 2 teaser gameplay thing at the end, but overall it was a really good direct, and they achieved the goal, at least for me, which was to make ARMS something that I felt like I needed to get. They also allowed you to play ARMS and try it out for yourself during that month. I believe it was the test punch is what they called it, and I had a lot of fun with that. So yeah, I actually think I put out a video for that. But yeah, my point is, ARMS was good, and I was really unsure about it at first because it was literally, okay, this Rock'em Sock'em Robot sort of thing that ended up being an indispensable part of what I considered the Switch experience to be. So yeah, May is when all that kind of came together for me, and I realized, hey, this is actually a great game. In June, they had a Splatoon 2 center stage sort of thing with the first Splatfest, like a test Splatfest sort of thing. There was another direct for Pokemon, where they confirmed that the Switch version of Pokemon was definitely going to happen, and things of that nature. It was overall a really short, really to the point presentation over the 3DS and the Switch versions of the Pokemon series and where they were going with that. I think they also did a little thing with Pokemon Go, but I do not remember for certain, so don't quote me on that. Let me see. Oh, July. Basically, by July, praise was raining down from everywhere. Like, literally all corners of the gaming industry had to come to terms with the fact that not only was Switch here, it was here to stay, and people wanted it really bad. Former executives of other companies, Sony and Microsoft, were also anticipating the potential of the Switch. Reviewers, tech giants, customers, the consumers, everybody pretty much universally praised the Switch's launch, their marketing, and their message, including myself, because again, it was a very well put together uh, marketing thing. Like they had their ducks in a row. Nintendo had a very strong position that they would maintain during the E3 event in 2017. The spotlight presentation there raised the hype around the Switch to levels of frenzy. Basically, like the the spotlight presentation that they had, they dropped all sorts of bombs for every genre that I was personally looking forward to. They had the basic highlights were they reconfirmed Xenoblade 2 for this year. They confirmed some Zelda DLC. They confirmed Rocket League's release date. They had Mario Odyssey. They announced Metroid Prime, which me personally, when I saw that reveal of Metroid Prime, it was like, uh, that feeling when you see something so unexpected that you're in sort of a disbelief. That's where I was when they announced Metroid Prime 4. I almost instantly knew what it was when I saw the blue clouds and they were kind of forming the number 4. But yeah, when I was able to process it and digest it and see that emblem up on the screen, I was like, okay, this is a thing. Or are they pulling our leg? Or my brain was not ready to accept that fact. So madness. Anyway, August they basically saw the release of a Monster Hunter Double Cross demo in Japan, which basically was notable to me for the fact that I really wanted the game, but they never adapted it to the States. That's actually one real deep disappointment for me from Nintendo this year was the fact that they did not release Double Cross in the United States. And yeah, another release that was really spectacular and a return to form for Sega was Sonic Mania. That thing was beautiful. 2D Sonic never looked so good, never played so smooth. It was amazing to the point where I was like, I can actually believe in Sonic again, especially after that whole other 3D Sonic game that came out that I will leave nameless because I was surprised that they were even willing to release that game. But anyway, um, I still play Sonic Mania whenever I have a free moment, like in the line at the doctor's office or waiting for a flight or something like that. Um, Yeah, just it's everything. The graphics are smooth. The scope and the story were up to snuff with what I would expect from a Sonic game. More importantly, it had just enough nostalgia and just enough new stuff and twists and turns that it became my favorite 2D Sonic to date. That's just not an exaggeration. Everything about the game was the perfect balance between the old Sonic and what Sonic should be moving forward. So if they do decide to make another Sonic game in the near future, if they make it almost exactly like Sonic Mania and just expand, maybe add another new territory or two, keep the same art style and the feel of Sonic Mania, that would be perfect. I would play the crap out of it. So yeah, Sony, that's your. I mean, sorry, Sega, that's your cue to make something equally awesome to the Sonic Mania franchise, and perhaps maybe try and adapt it to 3D if you feel the need. But I would say 2D Sonic is just fine. Let's see. September saw the release of an update 4.0.0, which updated icons and allowed video capture and included pre-purchase options for new video games coming out. And perhaps most notably, as reported by a few outlets like Nintendo Life, the ability to use wireless headphones if they're connected to the game system, which is almost defeating the purpose of wireless headsets. But that's not the point. The point is you can now technically use wireless headsets as long as they're connected. Yeah. Games of note that were released during September were NBA 2K18 and Pokken Tournament DX. I was not necessarily too enthused with NBA 2K18, mostly because I am not the type of person to play a sports game unless it's in real life. Like I I sit down and I play NBA jams and all of those old school games like for sports, and I can't help but ask myself, why am I in here doing this when I could literally just go outside and cross up my neighbors playing basketball outside? Like I had that thought every time, and so I'd never been able to justify a sports game to myself beyond like the Super Nintendo days when I wasn't necessarily always able to go outside. But yeah, anyway, um, October. October had a couple of releases of note also. They had Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which was Nintendo's third mobile game and technically fourth mobile experience if you count that initial social media thing. Yeah, and they had Fire Emblem Warriors. There was also an update for Pokken Tournament, and probably the most anticipated release for the year for many people, Super Mario Odyssey came out. I could not pick this game up at launch because I budgeted for Xenoblade 2 instead. And while I wasn't disappointed with my choice, I would have preferred to own both. That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Sometimes your money just isn't there. But yeah, Super Mario Odyssey got fantastic reviews, a lot of critical acclaim. People were saying that this is the next step in awesome as far as 3D Mario goes. It's better than the Mario 64. It's better than Super Mario Odyssey. It's better. I'm sorry. Wow. It's better than Super Mario Galaxy. They were heaping praise onto this game, and the Metascores showed as well that this game was just phenomenal. Like there were very, very trivial, minimal issues with the game, and yeah, those issues didn't even subtract from the experience because most people didn't even notice it. So yeah, I mean there was a lot of great reviews and a lot of great press around this game. And I still plan on picking it up at some point in the future, and I may start a video series about how late I am to this Mario thing. But anyway, yeah. November. Honestly, I didn't have too much stuff that stuck out to me personally, but there were some notable releases in Doom and Resident Evil. There were a lot of critical acclaim for both of these games, which was great, but they were not games I would personally play. You may remember me saying at the beginning that I was interested in Doom earlier in the year, but that interest was more on how well it would run on the Switch, and for the most part, people seemed like they weren't necessarily disappointed by how it ran. Oh no, it's 30 frames per second, or oh no, it doesn't look good as a PC. You heard those yahoos every so often, but generally speaking, the critical acclaim for Doom was very good, and for Resident Evil was very good. So yeah, it those games were, critically acclaimed, but again, not my, cup of tea. Let's see. Oh, December. This was my favorite month of the year because I got to play what I consider the best executed JRPG in years and perhaps even ever. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had great storytelling, great voice acting, an anime art style, and basically the entire story had the on me. Bleh. And basically the entire story had me on the edge of my seat for 80 hours. It took me to uh, it it took me to beat the main story campaign and many of its side quests through that 80 hours, and I found myself in a rare position that I hadn't been in since when I was playing PlayStation One, PlayStation with the Final Fantasy VII series, where I literally was so engaged in the storyline that I almost played nonstop until I beat it. I think I put in like 20 hours per day, more or less, and yeah, that's a little embarrassing to say out loud, but it was that great of a game. It was my favorite game for this year, if not ever. So, yeah, that's a thing. Um, yeah, as far as the future goes, Nintendo's past decade of experiences in dealing with the gaming world and their failures and their successes kind of culminated into what we now know as one of the best years overall that I've seen from any gaming company ever. As for 2018, I would love to see more of the same attention to detail, great marketing, and solid software updates that made Nintendo uh, dominate basically all of 2017. Uh, yeah, Nintendo's all about fun, and this year was about Nintendo proving that fact and showing the world that, hey, if you really want to have a system that isn't the most powerful but is the most fun and sell well, you can do that. And so I'm hoping that the Sonys and the Microsofts and people that produce PCs, I hope they all still push towards bigger and better as far as graphical capabilities are concerned. But I hope that this experience, this excellent first year for Nintendo, helps people look at more than just how many pixels they're shoving into your eyeballs and expand into a world where fun and power are synonymous and can work together to create the best experiences for the price and for the user. Yeah, go figure. That's just my little philosophical dealio. But I'm really personally looking forward to what Nintendo's online service looks like. I'm waiting to see where they decide to end 3DS because I'm pretty sure this is the year where they're going to kind of pull away from it. Not to say that the 3DS isn't still doing well, is just this is the year where I think they're really going to start to ramp down production for the 3DS and ramp up production for the Switch, as if it wasn't already ramped up. But yeah, um, yeah, I have no doubt that Nintendo can keep up the momentum for the 3DS for a little while, and for the Switch for the foreseeable future. And I can't wait to see what risks and twists and turns and general wackiness my current favorite gaming company can pull off. I appreciate you guys listening through the whole thing. Thank you for watching slash listening. And as a last note, I have experienced an insane amount of growth this holiday season. My subscriber base, which no, sorry, my subscriber base, my watch time, and my views have skyrocketed to just about double what they were 6 months ago. I can't put into words how glad I am on this YouTube. Uh, I can't put into words how glad I am to be on this YouTube journey with you guys, and I can't wait to see what new things we are going to experience together in the future. So with that, thank you very much. I am Jeff the Christian Gamer. If you'd like to like and or subscribe, you may do so by clicking on the links provided. Also, if you'd like to check out other videos that I've done, you may do so by clicking on the links in this video. So again, thank you so much. I am once more Jeff the Christian Gamer. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Kwanzaa, whatever holiday you're celebrating, happy that or merry that. And I'll catch you guys next time.